Picture this. A plank of wood stretched across two barrels becomes one of the most profitable business models in American history. The Wild West Saloon wasn't just where you grabbed a drink. It was a sophisticated, multi-revenue operation that would make today's entrepreneurs green with envy. And it changed everything from local politics to how we talk. Here's the number that explains everything. In 1860, Virginia City, Nevada had 42 salons serving roughly 2,200 men. That's one salon for every 52 people. When gold turned up near Santa Barbara in 1848, the town had a single cantina. A few years later, more than 30 salons. Livingston, Montana, with just 3,000 residents, somehow kept 33 of them in business. This wasn't unusual. This was how the entire American frontier worked. The reason was dead simple. Anyone could get started. You needed a tent, a couple of barrels topped with a board, and some rotgut whiskey. That's it. Management experience? Optional. Marketing budget? Unnecessary because the product sold itself. Mark Twain nailed it when he said the cheapest way to become influential was to stand behind a bar, wear a flashy diamond pin, and sell whiskey. But here's where things get fascinating. The whiskey was just the starting point for how these places printed money. That whiskey, though, calling it barely drinkable would be generous. The house rotgut hit 100 proof, mixed from raw alcohol, burnt sugar, and chewing tobacco. Barkeeps stretched their supply by cutting it with turpentine, ammonia, gunpowder, or cayenne pepper. No wonder people called it tanglefoot, 40 rod, tarantula juice, and coffin varnish. A shot cost 25 cents, what they called 2 bits. Beer ran a nickel to a dime. The markup? Between 30 and 60% over wholesale. Now think about a cowboy's wages. About $30 a month. One night at a Saloon could destroy that paycheck, and saloon owners had crafted every possible reason for a man to stay longer and spend more. Which brings us to one of the most brilliant marketing schemes in American business history, the free lunch. Saloons across the frontier served complete meals at no charge to anyone who bought at least one drink. But here's the stroke of genius. The food was loaded with salt. Pretzels, rye bread, smoked herring, salted peanuts, potato chips, dill pickles. A couple drinks created appetite. The salty food created serious thirst. That thirst created more drink orders. It was a beautiful, self-perpetuating cycle of consumption. The numbers were staggering. Along 4 miles of one major Chicago street in the 1890s, you'd find 115 saloons serving free lunches but only 5 10-cent restaurants. The city's saloon keepers fed an estimated 60,000 people every single day. These free lunches cost way more than a single drink, but the saloon owner knew most customers would buy several rounds. This practice was so common, so woven into American culture, that it gave us a phrase we still use. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But alcohol and salty snacks were just the foundation. The real money came from gambling. Western gambling peaked from 1850 to 1910, and it was the top entertainment across the frontier. Nearly everyone played. Gambling halls were usually the largest, fanciest buildings in town, and entire communities measured their success by how many gambling halls and professional gamblers they attracted. Saloon owners either ran the tables themselves or leased the gambling space to professional dealers who paid fees or a cut of the winnings. Wyatt Earp understood this perfectly. In January 1881, Oriental saloon owner Milt Joyce gave Earp a quarter interest in the Faro concession in exchange for managing and enforcing. Earp later told people he made his money by mining the miners. He wasn't digging for gold, he was extracting it from the men who did. Then there were the saloon girls, and this is where the economics get really clever. Saloon girls earned about $10 a week in base wages, plus commissions. When a customer bought a girl a drink, she got a cut, typically 15 cents out of every 25-cent drink. But here's the beautiful trick. Those drinks the men bought for the girls, they weren't whiskey at all. Bartenders served the women cold tea or colored sugar water in shot glasses, charging the customer full whiskey price. The man thought he was getting a pretty girl drunk. The girl stayed completely sober. The saloon pocketed profit on a drink that cost them almost nothing. Dancing brought in more cash. Saloons charged as much as $1 per dance, split 50-50 with the girls. The most popular dance hall girls could squeeze 50 dances into one night. That's $25 in a single evening, nearly a cowboy's entire monthly salary. And then there was prostitution. Now, most saloon girls were not prostitutes. The distinction mattered enormously to the women themselves. But many saloons had wine rooms in the back or cribs upstairs where paid companionship was available. The pricing varied wildly. A visit to a crib might cost $1. A night at a mid-range saloon brothel ran about $10. The fancy parlor houses charged $25 or more. At the very top, someone like Julia Bulette of Virginia City picked her own customers and reportedly earned as much as $1,000 in a single night. Local governments grabbed their share too. Bordellos paid monthly fines of about $8 to stay open, a licensing fee that everyone understood and nobody discussed publicly. What's fascinating is the ownership structure that made all this possible. Most respectable Western saloons had 3 layers: property owners, building owners, and business operators. The men who owned the land were often the community's most upstanding citizens, state representatives and church elders, who collected their rent and ignored everything behind the batwing doors. When moral reformers launched campaigns against the saloons, the landlords always had clean hands. An 1879 Texas law slapped an 18% tax on every hard liquor drink sold. A liquor license in Fort Worth had a cost of $650 a year. Serious money. But the fact that so many small operators could pay these taxes and fees and still earn a comfortable living tells you everything about how profitable this business was. By the early 1880s, the breweries caught on. Companies like Schlitz started adopting the British tied house system, buying saloons outright to guarantee outlets for their product. They built elaborate establishments to attract customers and advertise their brands. The independent frontier saloon was slowly being swallowed by something more corporate. Then came the backlash. The Anti-Saloon League, formed in 1893, became national by 1895, and quickly surpassed both the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Prohibition Party as the most powerful prohibition lobby in America. By 1920, federal prohibition shuttered the saloons for good. When Prohibition ended in 1933, the word saloon carried too much baggage to make a comeback. The institution was finished. But here's what we should remember. Researcher Kelly Dixon, excavating former saloon sites in Virginia City, found more bottles, smoking pipes, and game boards than bullets or signs of violence. The Hollywood version of the saloon, with its nightly shootouts and flying chairs, was mostly fiction. The reality was these were community centers, the only gathering places many frontier towns had. They were where men found job leads, heard the news, conducted business, and fought off the crushing loneliness of life on civilization's edge. The Wild West Saloon was, above all else, a machine built to separate men from their money through an interlocking system of cheap booze, salty food, rigged games, pretty faces, and cold tea disguised as whiskey. And it worked spectacularly well for nearly a century.